town, like East Village, there's a big demand for urban gardens, but the biggest problem is just making a garden out of concrete areas. Would you have to break the concrete and then start from there, or can you actually build something on top of the concrete?
You can do raised beds on top of concrete, but when you do that, you don't have access to the microorganisms in the soil. So it doesn't make it impossible, but you have to add things like worm castings, which are good for your soil anyway, and we always put those in raised beds. Whenever you have new soil, it's basically sterile because there's no nutrients in it. So we add more things to it. Also, when you water them, they tend to leach out on the concrete, which is kind of ugly, but you know, it is what it is. You could drill holes in the concrete, I imagine.
Sheet mulching on concrete.
Really?
But
Right.
you have to do like
Layers
50
of
layers to get like 2 feet tall.
So Kara said she's actually heard of people doing the sheet mulching on. And you know, I've seen that somewhere also. Yeah. Yes.
Hey, you guys, do you have to be licensed for this?
I'm a farmer, and I don't believe that I have to be licensed to farm yet.
All right.
Have you done any of your top gardens yet?
No, I haven't, because those are very tricky structurally. You have to have a licensed architect to build those. They're very tricky. The weight of the soil and the water. Yeah, really tricky. But you can do pots on the roof. But the best way to do that is to group your pots close together so that the plants shade each other, protect each other from the wind, things like that. Let's see, we have a couple more slides. Again, just some more pictures of how beautiful these gardens are. You know,
What are those little trellises?
those are
bamboo,
bamboo tomato trellises, but you can grow things like beans and cucumbers on them. They're great. They're like an umbrella.
Do you guys make those? Or?
No, you can get them at Walter Anderson's. And they store really well. You can use them year after year. They fold up nicely. You can expand them really wide or keep them tall. Come in, I think, 4 or 5 different sizes. And this garden is transitioning. This is garlic here that'll come out in the summer. There's, I think, 5 different types of heirloom garlic there. And in the center of the garden is the leftover winter garden. You can see some kale and some onions that are ready to harvest. On the perimeters, there are the summer garden, so it's kind of working towards the center here. There's, on this side, a bunch of potatoes and beans planted. This gal has not bought anything but onions and avocados for the last year at the grocery store. It's all there. And kids love gardens. This is Hadley, our next door neighbor, and that's my wiener dog Heidi. So gardens are great places for kids too.
Where do you go get straw?
You can drive to any feed store in East County and find it. I would call ahead.
Yeah.
If you want to get it local, you can get it at City Farmers. But remember to ask for post-harvest or seedless. What happens when your straw starts to sprout, and it will, is after a rain especially, you get these little green grass coming up everywhere, and it's really pretty. But it's not really what you want. So you just take a pitchfork and get under it and flip it over, and it starts composting. It's really easy. It's not like pulling weeds.
Have you come kind of off subject? Is there any type of artichoke you can do potted versus the really big landscape artichokes?
You know, I don't think so. But you know, why not try? You know?
Yeah, it would sound, but the roots are really deep, right?
They get really big, and
Yeah.
the stems, you can't see them, but the stems are really big too. But if you got like something the size of a whiskey barrel or something,
Yeah.
you know, I just try it.
Yeah.
You know, gardening's all about successes and failures, and I think the main thing is start small, choose some easy things, and get some successes under your belt, because if you don't, then you're just going to be going, this is too much work. I'm going to the farmer's market. I mean,
those are mostly full sun?
Yes. Yeah. Most vegetables require 8 hours of sun. Yeah, you can eke it out with 6, but if you have less than that, you'll just be struggling. You can try But there's other things that you can plant. If you can't grow an artichoke, you can do lettuce, you know, or broccoli grows in a little bit less sunshine. You know, just you have to pick the plants that are good for your space. Yeah.
I know it depends on what the plant is, but as far as watering schedules go, what do you recommend?
General rule of thumb is like 15. If you're doing a soaker or something, 15 minutes 3 times a week. But if you have to be interactive with your soil, you really have to. The best way to, these are not landscape plants, so you have to get your hand in there. Your soil should feel moist, like a wrung out washcloth. And all of our gardens, we put a ton of mulch on them because that'll keep the soil cool. It reduces the soil temperature by like 10 degrees. And it'll keep your water down by the roots where the plants need it. But it's really difficult to say because sandy soils you have to water more often. Clay soils a little bit less.
Let's say contain above ground or container.
Above ground container, and again it depends on the type of materials you use.
Okay.
If you use terracotta, which is one of the worst things to grow things in, it's almost every day because that water just wicks. It just wicks right out. And what happens is the roots of the plants will follow the water and they'll get up against that hot terracotta and burn. So if you're going to use terracotta, use some kind of liner on the inside, or you can use a glazed ceramic. Wood is porous, but it doesn't burn. Yes?
We have a huge problem with pill bugs at City College, so we use mulch because we do a lot of direct sowing. What do you do with seedlings? Did you have pill bug problems with mulch?
You know, we have tried a bunch of different things with pill bugs, and we'll put down beer traps that are good for slugs and snails, and inevitably a lot of the pill bugs fall in. We have problems with pill bugs too.
Do you do cuffs around your seedlings?
I have not, but I saw that you did that over at City. I guess I don't have the problem that you have with them.
Do you do more direct sowing or transplanting?
For our clients' gardens, we do a lot of transplanting because there's still this American instant gratification thing going on.
Right.
So, you know, when they write a check for us, it's like, here's your garden. I don't want them to see just nothing, you know. So we do, but then we also sow seeds. Yeah.
Do you find that you have to add more soil amendments when you mulch so heavily, or the other way around?
Technically, and scientifically.
Generally, you would need to, right, because a lot of the mulching will actually leach nitrogen from the
Well,
soil.
if you're turning raw material into your soil, yeah, you have to add nitrogen because for carbons to break down, they require nitrogen. So these are not in the soil, it's sitting right on top. It's a little bit different, but we do put a lot of good stuff into the soil before we mulch, and then the mulch starts breaking down. It's not robbing nitrogen out of the soil though.
You got any worms?
No, because worms are there. Worms are there. You don't want to add red wigglers in your worm bin to your garden because red wigglers are top feeders. So if they're hungry, they'll come eat your
That's a standard
plants.
worm.
The red wigglers are typically what you find in worm bins for vermiculture, yeah. And you can buy those online or go to City Farmers and you can hand dig your own. Worm composting is great. Really fun. Really fun, and if you've got kids, it's extra fun.
Do you set up compost bins?
We set up compost bins and vermiculture systems also. Yeah. That's really fun.
What was wrong with the pill bugs? I don't.
They will, if they're hungry, they're decomposers mainly, but they'll eat fresh greens if when your seedlings start coming up. They love baby beets.
All of our seedlings.
Yeah.
Go right to the seedlings.
Really?
Yeah, but they've got some great. They built these paper cup things around the plants to keep the pill bugs out, so those work well.
Okay.
Chickens really like to eat
Chickens
pill
love
bugs.
pill bugs. Yeah.
I've been trying to think of
Yeah, if you can rotate if we could do this, it would be so wonderful. If you've got your garden space here and you've got your chickens here, and those chicken tractors are great. The chickens come in, they scratch everything up, they eat all the bugs, move it over, and then you start composting, and then you can eventually plant. So that's the way it's supposed to be. And we had a farm we would turn the poultry loose. We did our poultry in our garden during the winter months when it was really